The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Ambassador Hana Kim stood at the center platform, her hands clasped behind her back. Above her, floating in their designated spaces, were the representatives of the 5 major powers. Each one looked down at her with expressions ranging from boredom to outright contempt. Hana was used to this. For the past 10 years, she had represented Earth at these meetings. For 10 years, she had been treated like a child playing at adult games. The other species saw humanity as weak, primitive, barely worthy of a seat at the table. The Draknor representative spoke first. Vorthax was his name, though his full title was Warclaw Vorthax of the Crimson Fleet. He was massive, even by his species standards. Scales the color of dried blood covered his body, and his eyes glowed with an amber light. When he spoke, his voice rumbled through the chamber like thunder. "The Draknor Empire has been patient long enough," Vorthax said. "Humanity occupies a star system of significant strategic value. Your species cannot defend it. You cannot use it properly. Therefore, we are claiming it for the greater good of the galactic community." Hana felt her stomach tighten, but she kept her face calm. "Earth is our home. It has been our home for millions of years. We will not simply abandon it." A clicking sound came from the Vesh representative. The insectoid creature's mandibles moved rapidly, translating through the chamber's communication system. "Your attachment to a single planet is inefficient. We are offering you colony worlds. Good worlds. You should be grateful." "Grateful," Hana repeated, her voice steady. "You want us to be grateful that you're taking our home?" The Luminar representative shimmered, its crystalline body reflecting light in patterns that conveyed amusement. "What can you do to stop it, Ambassador? Your military is laughable, 3 cruisers and a handful of frigates. We have seen your weapons technology. Kinetic projectiles, chemical propulsion. You're using technology that most species abandoned thousands of years ago." Hana wanted to respond, but she held her tongue. There were things she could say, secrets she knew, but now was not the time. "Not yet," Vorthax continued. "The Draknor Empire is being generous. We are giving you 72 hours to evacuate your system peacefully. After that time, our fleet will arrive. If you resist, you will be removed by force. Many of you will die. This is your choice." The other representatives nodded in agreement. Even the more peaceful species seemed to think this was reasonable. After all, what could humanity do? They were weak. Everyone knew it. 72 hours, Hana said quietly. "That's your final offer?" "It is more than you deserve," Vorthax growled. Hana nodded slowly. "Then I will take your message back to Earth, but know this, Warclaw Vorthax. Humanity does not surrender easily." "We never have," Vorthax laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Brave words from a species with no teeth. "The council is adjourned. You have your time. Use it to save lives and evacuate peacefully." The representatives began to disappear, teleporting back to their respective ships or homeworlds. Within moments, Hana stood alone in the chamber. She allowed herself one moment of emotion, closing her eyes and taking a deep breath. Then she activated her communicator. "This is Ambassador Kim. Connect me to Earth Defense Command. Priority Alpha." Across the solar system, Captain Jinho Park sat in the command chair of the Earth cruiser Defiant. It was old as far as spaceships went. 50 years of service, multiple refits, and more patches than original hull plating. But it was his ship and he loved it. The ship's comm officer turned to him. "Sir, priority transmission from Earth. It's sealed with alpha codes." Jinho felt ice in his veins. Alpha codes meant one thing: war. "Put it through," he said. The screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Yuna Choi. She was an older woman, her hair gray, her face lined with years of service. But her eyes were sharp and clear. "Captain Park," she said without preamble, "you are to take your fleet to coordinates that will be transmitted separately. You will wait there until further orders. Do not engage any hostile forces. Do not return to Earth, do you understand?" Jinho blinked. "Admiral, with respect, what's happening? Are we at war?" "Not yet," Yuna said. "But we will be soon. The Draknor Empire has given us 72 hours to abandon Earth. They're bringing a fleet. And we're running?" Jinho couldn't keep the anger from his voice. "Admiral, my crew didn't sign up to abandon Earth without a fight." Yuna's expression softened slightly. "Captain, I know what I'm asking. But you need to trust me. Trust the chain of command. Go to those coordinates. Wait for orders. Everything will become clear very soon." "How soon?" 68 hours. Maybe less. Yuna leaned forward. Jinho, I've known you for 20 years.
Have I ever steered you wrong?
Jinho shook his head. No, Admiral. You haven't. Then trust me now. Humanity's survival depends on everyone doing exactly what they're told. Go to those coordinates. Watch your sensors, and be ready for anything. The transmission ended. Jinho sat back in his chair, staring at the blank screen. His first officer, Commander Bora, approached him. Sir, your orders? Plot a course to the coordinates we're about to receive, Jinho said, and send a message to the other ships in the fleet. We're moving out. Are we really running, sir? Bora asked quietly. Jinho thought about Admiral Yuna's words, about the strange certainty in her voice, about the way she said everything would become clear. No, he said finally. I don't think we are. I think we're moving into position for something. I just don't know what. On Earth, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Yuna Choi walked through corridors that hadn't been used in months. The lights activated as she passed, responding to her biosignature. Around her, the walls hummed with power that had been sleeping for decades. She reached a massive door at the end of the corridor. On it was a simple label, Titan Protocol. Yuna placed her hand on the scanner. A light passed over her palm, reading her DNA, her fingerprints, and the unique pattern of her blood vessels. A moment later, the door slid open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Beyond the door was a control room. Engineer Minho Bayek was already there, his fingers flying over multiple screens. He looked up as Yuna entered. Admiral, he said, I've been expecting you. I take it the council didn't go well? They've given us 72 hours, Yuna said. Vorthax is bringing a fleet. 200 ships, according to our intelligence. Minho nodded. Then it's time? Yuna looked at the screens, at the data flowing across them. 300 years of secrets. 300 years of preparation. Humanity's greatest achievement hidden from the galaxy. Yes, she said. Begin the activation sequence. It's time the galaxy learned what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Minho's fingers moved across the controls. Deep below them, in chambers that extended down into the ocean floor, systems began to wake. Power flowed through conduits the size of train tunnels. Computers that had been dormant for years came online, running through millions of diagnostic checks. And in the darkness, something vast began to stir. Activation sequence initiated, Minho reported. All systems responding normally. The eternal horizon is waking up. Yuna allowed herself a small smile. Good, and the others? All 6 sister ships are beginning activation as well. By the time the Draknor fleet arrives, we'll be ready. Yuna nodded. She thought about Ambassador Hana, standing alone in that council chamber. About Captain Jinho, confused but following orders. About the billions of people on Earth who had no idea what was about to happen. 72 hours, she said quietly. In 72 hours, the galaxy is going to learn the truth. Humanity isn't weak. We never were. We were just waiting. Dr. Sora Lee stood in the archive room, surrounded by screens showing images from 300 years ago. She had been studying these files for weeks, preparing for what was coming. As Earth's leading xenotechnology specialist, she needed to understand every detail of how humanity had reached this point. The first image showed Earth in 2547. The day everything changed. The alien ship had appeared without warning. It was massive, elegant, and completely beyond anything humanity had ever built. For 3 days, the world held its breath. Then the aliens made contact. They called themselves the Luminar Federation, and they came with an invitation. Humanity was invited to join the galactic community. At first, Earth's leaders celebrated. They thought this was humanity's greatest moment, the beginning of a new era, but then they attended their first council meeting and reality hit them like a hammer. They were the weakest species at the table. By far, every other species had thousands of years of space travel experience. They had weapons that could crack planets. They had ships that could cross galaxies in weeks. And humanity? Humanity had barely reached Mars. Their weapons were primitive. Their ships were slow. Worse, the other species made no attempt to hide their contempt. To them, humanity was like children playing with toys. Amusing, perhaps, but certainly not equals. Sora switched to another file. This one was marked, Classified, Eyes Only. It showed a meeting room on Earth 5 years after first contact. Around the table sat representatives from every major nation. The discussion was heated. "We cannot allow ourselves to remain this weak," the American president said. "Every intelligence report shows the same thing. The galaxy sees us as easy prey. It's only a matter of time before someone decides to take what we have." The Chinese premier nodded. "Agreed, but what can we do? It would take us centuries to catch up to their technology." That was when the Korean representative spoke. His name was Admiral Do-Yun Nam, Yuna's grandfather. "Then we don't catch up," he said. "We leap ahead." The room fell silent. Someone asked what he meant. "We spend the next 300 years building something," Do-Yun explained. "Something so powerful that no one will dare threaten us. But we do it in secret. We let the galaxy think we're weak. We smile and nod and play the part of the primitive species. And while they're not paying attention, we prepare." That was the birth of the Titan Protocol. Sora closed the old files and pulled up more recent data. The work had been incredible. Every nation on Earth contributed. Resources, scientists, engineers, entire generations dedicated to a single purpose: building humanity's sword and shield. The facilities were constructed in the deepest parts of the ocean, in remote asteroid fields, on the far side of the moon. Anywhere that prying alien eyes wouldn't look. The workers rotated every 10 years, sworn to secrecy, their families cared for by the program. And slowly, over centuries, the impossible became real. Sora's communicator buzzed. It was Engineer Minho. "Dr. Lee, we need you in Bay 7. The integration systems are coming online, and I want you to verify the alien tech modifications." "On my way," Sora replied. She made her way through the facility, taking an elevator down for what felt like forever. When the doors opened, she stepped into a chamber so large that she couldn't see the far wall, and there, suspended in the center, was a sight that still took her breath away. The eternal horizon. 20 kilometers of military engineering. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The hull was a dark gray metal, smooth and seamless. Weapon ports dotted its surface like stars in the night sky. And along its length, she could see the results of humanity's greatest achievement: taking alien technology and making it better. Minho met her at the observation deck. "Beautiful, isn't she?" "Terrifying is more accurate," Sora said. "How's the integration going?" "Better than expected. We took the Luminar shield technology and increased its efficiency by 40%. The Draknor weapon systems, we miniaturized them and tripled the firing rate. The Vesh propulsion drives, we combined them with our own innovations and created something that can micro-jump with pinpoint accuracy." Sora nodded, checking the data on her tablet. Everything Minho said was true. Humanity hadn't just copied alien technology. They had studied it, understood it, and improved it. The eternal horizon represented the best of what the galaxy had to offer, refined through human creativity and desperation. "What about the other ships?" she asked. "All 6 sister ships are on schedule. The Unyielding Dawn is at 98% readiness. Silent Thunder and Crimson Oath are both at 95%. The others are close behind. 7 supercarriers, each one capable of taking on an entire fleet by itself. This was humanity's secret, kept hidden for 3 centuries while the galaxy laughed at them. Across the solar system, Captain Jinho's fleet reached the coordinates Admiral Yuna had given them. It was empty space, far from any planets or stations. His crew was confused, and Jinho couldn't blame them. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "I'm not reading anything here." "No ships, no stations, nothing. Keep scanning," Jinho ordered. The Admiral said to wait, so we wait. Hours passed. The crew grew restless. Some whispered that maybe Earth's leaders had given up, that they were abandoning the system without a fight. Jinho didn't believe it, but he had no evidence to offer them. Then, with 48 hours left on the Draknor ultimatum, something changed. "Sir," the sensor officer shouted, "I'm reading. I don't know what I'm reading. Space itself is distorting." Jinho leaned forward. On screen, what he saw didn't make sense. Empty space was rippling like heat waves on a desert road. The distortion grew larger and larger, spreading across thousands of kilometers. "It's a stealth field," the comm officer, Lieutenant Narigo, whispered. "But nothing that big could hide behind a stealth field. It's not possible." The rippling intensified, and then, piece by piece, reality reassembled itself into something that shouldn't exist. First, a shadow appeared, then metal, then more metal. The sensor readings climbed higher and higher. 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 5, 10, 20. The eternal horizon materialized in front of them like a god emerging from nothing. Jinho's crew was silent. Someone dropped their coffee cup and it clattered on the deck, but no one noticed. They were all staring at the screen, at the impossible ship that had appeared before them. "How long has that been there?" Jinho asked quietly. "Based on the stealth field patterns," the sensor officer said, his voice shaking. "It's been there the whole time. We've been sitting next to it for hours without knowing." Jinho felt something shift inside him. All those years of being looked down on by the other species. All the times he had attended diplomatic functions and been treated like a child. All the mockery and contempt humanity had endured. It had all been a lie. "A deliberate deception, sir," Nari said. "The eternal horizon is hailing us. Put it through." Admiral Yuna's face appeared on the screen. Behind her, Jinho could see a command center that looked more advanced than anything he had ever seen. "Captain Park," Yuna said, "welcome to humanity's real navy. What you're looking at is the eternal horizon, the first of 7 supercarriers built over the past 3 centuries. Each one is fully operational. Each one is crewed by personnel who have trained their entire lives for this moment." Jinho found his voice. "Admiral?" "The galaxy has no idea, do they?" Yuna smiled. "No, they don't. They think we're weak. They think we're primitive. They've been thinking that for 300 years. In 48 hours, when the Draknor fleet arrives, they're going to learn the truth. And Captain, I want you and your crew to have the best seats in the house." Behind the eternal horizon, space rippled again. 6 more massive shapes began to appear. The other supercarriers, each one as impossible as the first. "My God," Jinho breathed. "No," Yuna said. "Not God, just humanity. Patient, clever, determined humanity. The Draknor think they're coming to remove a weak species from their home. Instead, they're about to learn the most important lesson in galactic history. Never mistake patience for weakness." On Earth, in government buildings around the world, leaders watched the same feeds. Some cried. Some laughed. All of them felt the weight of 3 centuries of sacrifice and secrecy lifting from their shoulders. The sword had been forged. Now it was time to use it. The Draknor fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 200 warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each ship was a testament to the Empire's military power. Some were larger than cities. All of them bristled with weapons that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Warclaw Vorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Blood Throne. Around him, his officers worked with efficient precision. This was routine for them. They had done this dozens of times before. A weak species refused to leave their system. The Draknor showed up with overwhelming force, and the weak species surrendered. Simple. "Begin scanning the system," Vorthax ordered. "Locate their pathetic fleet." The sensor officer worked his console. "Warclaw, I'm detecting 3 human cruisers and 12 frigates. They're holding position near the 6th planet." Vorthax laughed. 15 ships against 200. The humans are either very brave or very stupid. Probably stupid. What Vorthax didn't know was that every major species in the galaxy was watching. Ambassador Hana had made sure of it. She had opened Earth's communication channels to anyone who wanted to watch. By her count, representatives from 47 different civilizations were monitoring the feeds. Let them watch, she thought. Let them all watch what happens when you threaten humanity. On the eternal horizon, Admiral Yuna stood in the command center. Around her, hundreds of officers sat at their stations. Every one of them had trained for this moment. Some were the children of the original builders. Others were new recruits who had learned about the Titan protocol only months ago. But all of them were ready. "Status report," Yuna said calmly. Commander Taeyang Shin, her second-in-command, consulted his displays. "All 7 carriers are at full combat readiness. Fighter squadrons are prepared for launch. Weapon systems are charged. Shield generators are at maximum output. And the Draknor fleet, they're scanning the system, but they haven't detected us yet. The stealth fields are holding perfectly." Yuna nodded. The stealth technology had been one of humanity's greatest innovations. By studying and combining techniques from multiple species, human engineers had created something new. Something that could hide ships as large as the supercarriers from even the most advanced sensors. "Let them get closer," Yuna said. "I want them well inside the system before we reveal ourselves." Captain Jinho watched from his cruiser, the Defiant. His crew was tense. They knew what was coming, but that didn't make it any easier. 200 enemy ships. Even with the Eternal Horizon and its sister ships, the odds seemed impossible. "Sir," Lieutenant Nari said quietly, "the Draknor are hailing us." "Put it through," Jinho replied. Vorthax's scaled face appeared on the screen. "Human vessel, you have exactly 5 minutes to power down your weapons and surrender. If you comply, your crew will be allowed to evacuate to one of the colony worlds. If you resist, you will be destroyed. Choose wisely." Jinho took a deep breath. Admiral Yuna had given him specific instructions for this moment. He was to keep the Draknor talking as long as possible. "Warclaw Vorthax," Jinho said. "I represent Earth Defense Command. We cannot surrender our home. Surely we can reach some kind of agreement?" Vorthax snorted. "There is no agreement. You leave or you die. Those are your options. Then give us more time. A few more hours to evacuate our civilian population. You have had 72 hours. No more delays. 4 minutes remaining." In the Galactic Council's observation chamber, dozens of species watched the exchange. Some felt pity for humanity. Others felt nothing at all. The galaxy was harsh and the weak had no place in it. The Luminar representative shimmered with what might have been sadness. They chose pride over survival. How unfortunate. The Vesh representative clicked its agreement. Inefficient decision. The humans had good options for relocation. Only one representative seemed troubled. She was from a species called the Kirin, a peaceful race of telepaths. "Something feels wrong," she said. The human ambassador was too calm. Too confident. Confident in what? Another representative asked. "They have no military. This will be over in minutes." Back on the Blood Throne, Vorthax's patience ran out. "Time is up. All ships advance into the system. Target the human fleet. Fire when in range." The Draknor armada began moving forward, their ships spreading out in a standard attack formation. They expected resistance from the 15 human ships. They expected a brief one-sided battle. They expected victory. They did not expect what happened next. "Now," Admiral Yuna said simply. Across thousands of kilometers of space, 7 points of distortion appeared. The stealth fields collapsed all at once, revealing what had been hidden beneath them. The 7 supercarriers materialized like ghosts, becoming solid. They were positioned in a perfect sphere around the Draknor fleet, which meant the enemy was suddenly surrounded. On the Blood Throne, alarms began screaming. "Warclaw," the sensor officer shouted. "Unknown contacts." Multiple contacts. 7 massive signatures just appeared from nowhere. Vorthax stared at his screens in disbelief. What are those, ships? Nothing that large should be able to hide. But they weren't just hiding anymore. From each supercarrier, hundreds of smaller ships began to emerge. Fighters, bombers, destroyers, frigates. The human fleet had just grown from 15 ships to over 3,000 in a matter of seconds. And that wasn't all. As the galaxy watched in stunned silence, Admiral Yuna opened a communication channel that broadcast to every ship in the system, and through them, to every observer across known space. "Attention, Draknor fleet." Yuna's voice was calm and cold. "This is Admiral Yuna Choi of the Terran Defense Force. You came here believing humanity was weak. You came here thinking you could take our home with threats and violence. You were wrong." She paused, letting her words sink in. "For 300 years we have watched the galaxy. We studied your technology. We learned from your wars. And we prepared for the day when someone would mistake our patience for weakness. That day has arrived." Behind her, technicians began transmitting data, specifications of the supercarriers, details of their weapons, readings of their shield strength. All of it far beyond anything the galaxy currently possessed. "You have one chance," Yuna continued. "Power down your weapons, retreat from this system, or discover why humanity is still alive after 300 years of being underestimated." Vorthax was shaking with rage. "This is a trick, some kind of hologram or illusion. Those ships can't be real," his weapons officer interrupted. "Warclaw, my scans say they're very real, and they're targeting us. All of them." "Then we attack," Vorthax roared. "All ships open fire. Destroy those monstrosities." Across the galaxy, observers leaned forward. Some hoped the humans would back down. Others wanted to see what would happen. The Kirin representative closed her eyes and whispered, "They should have retreated." The Draknor fleet fired first. 200 ships unleashed their weapons. Energy beams, missiles, plasma torpedoes. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The attack struck the supercarrier's shields. For a moment, the protective barriers glowed bright with absorbed energy. Then the light faded and the shields held. Not a single shot penetrated. Impossible, Vorthax whispered. Admiral Yuna's voice came through again. You were warned. All ships, you are cleared to engage. Show them what humanity has built. The Eternal Horizon fired its main weapons. They were called dark matter rail cannons, though that name didn't quite capture what they were. The projectiles accelerated to 40% of light speed before leaving the barrels. They struck 3 Draknor cruisers dead center. The ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, punched through by projectiles moving so fast that their shields and armor might as well have been paper. 3 cruisers gone in the first salvo. The Draknor fleet hesitated, confusion spreading through their ranks. Then the other 6 supercarriers opened fire. The battle had begun, and the galaxy could only watch in awe and horror as humanity revealed what 3 centuries of patience and preparation had created. Ship after ship fell to weapons that seemed pulled from science fiction. The Draknor fought back desperately, but their shots either missed entirely or splashed uselessly against shields that were generations ahead of their technology. In the council chamber, the representative sat in stunned silence. The Luminar's crystalline body had stopped glowing. The Vesh's mandibles had frozen mid-click. Even the normally confident species were speechless. They've been hiding this the entire time, someone whispered. 300 years. They let us think they were weak. The Kirin representative opened her eyes. Not weak, patient, there's a difference. And the galaxy is about to learn what that difference means. On Earth, billions of people watched the battle unfold. Some cheered. Some cried. All of them felt the same thing, pride. Pride in what their ancestors had built. Pride in the generations who kept the secret. Pride in being human. The battle was far from over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Draknor had come expecting to face primitive weapons. Instead, they faced the result of humanity's greatest achievement, turning their weakness into strength, their isolation into focus, and their fear into determination. Wing Commander Jiwoo Han sat in the cockpit of her fighter, her hands steady on the controls. Around her, 300 other pilots waited for the launch order. They had trained for this their entire lives, flying simulators based on intelligence gathered from decades of watching alien combat tactics. Now it was time to put that training to use. All wings, this is Eternal Horizon Command. A voice crackled through her helmet. You are cleared for launch. Show them what human pilots can do. Copy that command, Jiwoo replied. All wings, follow my lead. The launch bay doors opened and Jiwoo felt her fighter accelerate forward. Within seconds, she was in open space. Behind her, wave after wave of fighters launched from all 7 supercarriers. The starfield filled with small, fast-moving ships. The Draknor had fighters too, but they were larger, slower, built for direct confrontation. Human fighters were different. They were small enough to dodge most incoming fire, fast enough to strike and retreat before the enemy could respond, and armed with weapons that punched far above their weight class. Lock missiles on the nearest Draknor cruiser, Jiwoo ordered. Fire on my mark. Her squadron moved as one unit, weaving through space in patterns that would have been impossible for larger ships. The Draknor point defense systems tried to track them, but the human fighters were too fast, too nimble. Mark, Jiwoo said. 300 missiles launched simultaneously. They weren't normal missiles. Human engineers had developed something called quantum entanglement guidance. Once locked onto a target, the missiles couldn't be jammed, couldn't be fooled by decoys, couldn't be shaken. They would find their target or die trying. The missiles struck the Draknor cruiser from every angle. Its shields flickered and failed under the concentrated assault. The hull cracked open, atmosphere venting into space. Within seconds, the ship was dead. One down, Jiwoo reported. Moving to next target. On the Blood Throne, Warclaw Vorthax watched his fleet fall apart. In just 5 minutes of combat, he had lost 20 ships. 20 ships against an enemy that wasn't supposed to exist. Get those human fighters off us, he roared. We're trying, Warclaw, his tactical officer replied. But they're too fast. Our targeting systems can't lock onto them. Vorthax slammed his fist on the console. Then use the big ships. Concentrate fire on those supercarriers. They can't hide from our main weapons. The remaining Draknor warships focused their fire on the Eternal Horizon. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles converged on a single point. Surely, Vorthax thought, even shields that advanced couldn't withstand that much punishment. He was wrong. The Eternal Horizon's shields absorbed everything. The human engineers had studied shield technology from 4 different species and combined them into something new. The shields didn't just block incoming fire. They converted the energy into power for the ship's systems. The more the Draknor fired, the stronger the human ship became. Admiral Una watched the battle from her command center. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Better than planned, actually. The simulations had predicted 15% losses by this point. Current losses 0. Status of the enemy fleet? She asked. Commander Tai Yang consulted his displays. We've destroyed or disabled 43 Draknor ships. Another 12 are retreating. The rest are still trying to fight. What about our forces? Minor shield damage on the Crimson Oath already regenerating. 2 fighters reported minor system malfunctions, both returning to carriers for quick repairs. Otherwise no casualties, Una nodded. She felt no pleasure in the destruction. War was never something to celebrate. But the Draknor had given them no choice. They had come here to take humanity's home. Now they were learning that some species fought back. Captain Hyun Kang commanded a squadron of human destroyers. His ships were smaller than the supercarriers but still more advanced than anything the Draknor had. His specialty was what the military called micro-jump tactics. All ships prepare for synchronized jump, Hyun ordered. His squadron's engines powered up. Then in perfect unison, all 12 destroyers vanished. They jumped into faster-than-light travel for exactly 3 seconds. When they reappeared, they were directly behind a Draknor battleship. Fire everything, Hyun said calmly. The destroyers unleashed their weapons at point-blank range. The Draknor battleship's rear shields, designed to protect against long-range attacks, weren't strong enough to stop weapons fired from mere kilometers away. The ship's engines exploded and the massive vessel began to drift, powerless. Before the Draknor could respond, Hyun's squadron jumped again. They reappeared 10,000 kilometers away, already targeting their next victim. This is incredible, Lieutenant Nari said from the Defiant. She and the rest of Captain Jinho's crew were watching the battle, still officially part of the old fleet. The Draknor can't even touch them. That's the point, Jinho replied. For 300 years we studied how every species in the galaxy fights. We learned their tactics, their strategies, their weaknesses, and we built our military to counter all of it. The battle continued for 18 minutes total. 18 minutes that changed everything. By the time it ended, the Draknor fleet was broken. 68 ships were destroyed. Another 83 were disabled, their crews either dead or surrendered. Only 49 ships remained combat-capable, and those were fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. Warclaw Vorthax's flagship was among the disabled ships. A missile strike had taken out his main engines. He sat on his damaged bridge, staring at the screens in disbelief. How? He whispered. How did we not know? Admiral Yuna's face appeared on his communication screen. Because we didn't want you to know. For 3 centuries, we played the part you expected. We acted weak. We acted primitive. We let you laugh at us, and while you were laughing, we were building. You can't do this, Vorthax stammered. The Galactic Council will do nothing, Una interrupted. Because they're all watching. Every major species in the galaxy has been watching this battle. They all see what happened when you attacked us. Do you think any of them want to be next? Vorthax had no answer. Your crew will be treated according to the Geneva Conventions, Una continued. That's a human concept. It means we'll treat our prisoners with dignity and respect, even though you came here to destroy us. Maybe you'll learn something from that. The transmission ended. Vorthax slumped in his command chair, defeated not just in battle but in spirit. The Draknor Empire had never lost like this. They had never even imagined they could lose like this. Across the galaxy, in thousands of observation centers and council chambers, the reactions were similar: shock, awe, fear, respect. The Luminar representative's crystalline body pulsed with confused colors. 300 years. They hid this for 300 years. Efficient, the Vesh representative clicked. Extremely efficient deception. The Kirin telepath smiled sadly. Not deception, survival. They did what they had to do. And now the galaxy knows. Humanity is not weak. They never were. In the council's main chamber, Ambassador Hana stood alone, watching the feeds. She thought about all the years of mockery, all the times she had been dismissed and ignored. She thought about her predecessors, the ambassadors who came before her, all of them playing the same role, hiding the same secret. It had been hard. So hard to smile while being insulted, to nod while being threatened, but it had been necessary, because if the galaxy had known the truth too soon, if they had discovered the Titan protocol before it was complete, they would have acted. They would have united against humanity, destroyed them before they became a threat. But now it was too late. The secret was out. Humanity's sword had been revealed, and it was magnificent. Hana's communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Yuna. Ambassador, Yuna said. The battle is over. Total human casualties, 0. We've secured the system. Earth is safe. Hana felt tears on her cheeks. Thank you, Admiral. Thank you for everything. Thank our ancestors, Yuna replied. They're the ones who had the wisdom to plan for this day. We just followed their blueprint. As the communication ended, Hana looked up at the empty council chamber. Soon it would fill again. Soon there would be emergency meetings, debates, new treaties. The galaxy would have to adjust to a new reality. Humanity was no longer the weak newcomer. They were a power to be respected, even feared. And they had earned that position through patience, intelligence, and the willingness to play the long game. The universe had shook. Now it had to figure out what came next. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council reconvened. The chamber looked the same as always, but everything had changed. The representatives who floated in their designated spaces seemed smaller somehow, less certain of themselves. When Ambassador Hana entered, there was no mockery, no dismissive glances. Instead, there was silence. Respectful, uncertain silence. The council leader, a being of pure energy from the Nexari sovereignty, spoke first. Ambassador Kim, the council wishes to apologize for the actions of the Draknor Empire. Their aggression was not sanctioned by this body. Hana nodded slowly. She knew that was a lie. The council had known about the Draknor's plans. Some had quietly supported them. But now that humanity had won, everyone wanted to distance themselves from the losing side. Your apology is noted, Hana said diplomatically, but let me be clear about something. Humanity didn't reveal our capabilities because we want to conquer. We did it because we had no choice. You forced our hand. She activated a holographic display. It showed footage from the battle, but also images from the past 300 years. Diplomatic meetings where humans were ignored, trade negotiations where Earth was cheated, military incidents where human ships were attacked, and the perpetrators faced no consequences. For 3 centuries we watched, Hana continued. We saw how the galaxy treated species they considered weak. We saw worlds conquered, populations enslaved, entire civilizations destroyed, and we knew that if we didn't protect ourselves, we would be next. The Luminar representative shimmered with what might have been shame. You did what you thought necessary for survival. We did what we had to do, Hana corrected. And now the galaxy faces a choice. You can accept humanity as equals, or you can try to oppose us. I think we've all seen how the second option works out. The Vesh representative clicked nervously. What does humanity want? It was the question everyone had been afraid to ask. What did humanity want now that they had power? Hana smiled. The same thing we've always wanted. To be left alone to live in peace. To trade freely and fairly. To be treated with the same respect you show each other. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want our place in it, she paused, letting that sink in. But understand this. We will never again allow ourselves to be threatened. The 7 supercarriers you saw are only the beginning. We have the facilities, the technology, and the will to build more if necessary. Anyone who threatens Earth or human colonies will face the same fate as the Draknor fleet. The council chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then the Nexari leader spoke. The council accepts humanity's terms. Earth will retain sovereignty over its territory. Trade agreements will be renegotiated on equal terms, and the Draknor Empire will face sanctions for their unprovoked aggression. It was everything Hana had hoped for, but she showed no emotion. The council's wisdom is appreciated. Humanity looks forward to building better relationships with all peaceful species. As the meeting adjourned, several representatives approached Hana privately. Some wanted to establish new trade routes. Others wanted to discuss technology sharing. A few even apologized personally for how they had treated humanity in the past. The galaxy was adapting quickly. That was how power worked. One day you were nobody. The next day, everyone wanted to be your friend. On Earth, the celebrations continued. Cities around the world held parades. Schools taught children about the Titan Protocol, about the generations who worked in secret to protect humanity's future. Statues were erected honoring Admiral Doyen Nam and the other founders who had started it all. Admiral Yuna stood on a stage in Seoul, addressing a crowd of millions. Behind her stood the crews of the 7 supercarriers, heroes all. Today marks a new chapter in human history, Yuna said. For 300 years our ancestors carried a burden. They knew a secret that could never be shared. They worked their entire lives on projects they could never discuss. They made sacrifices that would never be publicly acknowledged. Until now, the crowd cheered. Yuna waited for silence to return. But while we celebrate, we must also remember why the Titan Protocol was necessary. The galaxy can be cruel to the weak. It always has been. Our ancestors understood this. They understood that hope alone isn't enough. You need strength to back it up. She gestured to the supercarriers visible in orbit above them. These ships are not weapons of conquest. They are shields. They exist to protect human life, human freedom, and human dignity. And as long as I live, they will serve that purpose and nothing else. Captain Jinho stood among the crowd, now promoted to admiral and given command of the eternal horizon. It felt surreal. Just a week ago, he had been flying an old cruiser, thinking humanity was barely holding on. Now he commanded the most powerful warship in known space. His communicator buzzed. It was Dr. Sora. Admiral Park, congratulations on your promotion. When you have time, I need to brief you on something. Can it wait? Jinho asked. I'm at the ceremony. It's waited 300 years already. A few more hours won't hurt. But Jinho, there's something you need to know. Something only a few people know. Jinho felt a chill. What is it? The Titan Protocol wasn't finished. It was just Phase 1. Later that evening, Jinho met Sora and Engineer Minho in a restricted section of the Pacific facility. They took him deeper than he had ever been, through corridors that seemed to go down forever. Finally, they reached a door marked Phase 2. What's behind there? Jinho asked. Minho smiled. The same thing humanity has been doing for 300 years. Planning ahead. The galaxy knows about the supercarriers now. They know about our fighter technology, our weapons, our shields. Eventually, someone will try to counter them. Someone will develop defenses or create alliances specifically to oppose us. So what's Phase 2? Sora activated a holographic display. It showed schematics for something that made even the supercarriers look small. A mobile space station. Part shipyard, part fortress, part city. It was massive beyond comprehension. We call it Sanctuary, Sora explained. It's designed to be completely self-sufficient. It can build ships, process raw materials, support a population of 50,000, and defend itself against anything the galaxy could throw at it. Construction began 200 years ago. Jinho stared at the schematics. How close to completion? 70%, Minho said. Another 50 years if we continue at the current pace. But now that the secret is out, now that we have resources we don't have to hide anymore, we could finish it in 20 years. Maybe 15. Why are you telling me this? Because you're going to be the public face of humanity's military, Sora said. People will look at you and think they understand human capabilities. The galaxy will study the supercarriers and think they've seen our best. But the truth is we're always working on the next thing. We're always planning ahead. That's how humanity survives. Jinho nodded slowly. He understood now. The Titan Protocol wasn't just about building ships. It was about creating a culture of preparation, of never being caught off guard again. Does Admiral Yuna know about this? She's the one who authorized us to tell you, Minho replied. Welcome to the real inner circle, Admiral Park. Months passed. The galaxy slowly adjusted to the new reality. Trade with humanity increased dramatically. Species that had ignored Earth for centuries suddenly wanted partnerships and alliances. Human technology became highly sought after, though Earth was careful about what they shared. The Draknor Empire faced severe sanctions. Warclaw Vorthax was put on trial for war crimes. The proceedings were broadcast across the galaxy, a reminder of what happened to those who attacked humanity. But not everyone was happy about humanity's rise. Some species felt threatened. Others felt embarrassed that they had been fooled for so long. In the shadows, alliances began to form. Plans were made. Humanity knew this would happen. That was why Phase 2 existed. That was why they never stopped preparing. Ambassador Hana sat in her office looking at reports from across the galaxy. Some were encouraging. Many were concerning. But she wasn't worried. Humanity had learned its lesson 300 years ago. Never assume you're safe. Never stop preparing. Never let your guard down, her communicator chimed. It was Admiral Yuna, Ambassador. We have a situation. 3 species just formed a military pact. They're calling it the Coalition for Galactic Balance. Our intelligence suggests they're pooling resources to develop counters to our technology. Hana smiled. Let them try. How's Phase 2 coming along? Ahead of schedule. At the current rate, Sanctuary will be operational in 18 years. Good. And the other projects? Also progressing well. By the time anyone catches up to what we revealed, we'll be 2 generations ahead again. Hana ended the call and returned to her reports. Outside her window, Earth turned peacefully in the darkness of space. Above it, the 7 supercarriers maintained their watch, eternal guardians of humanity's home. The galaxy had learned one lesson. Humanity is not weak, but there was a second lesson they had yet to understand. Humanity never stops learning, never stops innovating, never stops preparing for tomorrow's threats. 300 years ago, a group of human leaders looked at the galaxy and realized they were hopelessly outmatched. Instead of giving up, they made a plan so audacious, so patient that it took centuries to complete now. Humanity stood as equals among the stars, but they didn't celebrate too long.